Welcome everyone. My name is Michelle Sutherland, CEO and founder of Definity. I'm so excited for this month's webinar in August. We have an amazing guest speaker, one of my pals and clients, Glen Hare from Fox and Hare, who you can see there, and you're going to get to hear from him in a little bit, but I'm so excited because his company just become B Corp certified in the last few months, and I thought it'd be really cool to hear from him and everything that he's been doing in his company to really be a force for good and to think about all aspects of business like purpose, people, community, the planet, and it's just really exciting to have Glen here and be able to share that story. So first of all, I just, as always, wanted to go through and share with you an overview of what we do, but also you know, what is a B Corp and what's it all about, because many of you know about it but you don't fully understand it. And so this free webinar is very much about education and giving loads of value so that you understand exactly what this movement is, exactly what this certification means, and exactly what the process is to become one, because it is a fairly rigorous process. So Definity, we have a double mission. We are here, one, to help companies be for the greater good, and two, to help young people be for the greater good. And we do that through the B Corp framework and philosophy. So we help companies become B Corp certified because we understand how painful it can be, whether you're just getting started or whether you're halfway through, or maybe you're just at the end of this sort of process. We know it's really rigorous. It's very time consuming. And a lot of the time it's so overwhelming, you just don't know what to do. So we exist to actually ease that pain and to help you through the entire process to get to the point where you could be B Corp certified. And then we take a percentage of our profits. We take 10% of our profits, which goes into a social entrepreneur fund, where we educate young people about social entrepreneurship and B Corp as well, because we figure if we can let young people know about this way of solving the world's biggest problems through something like a B Corp framework and understanding the power of being a social entrepreneur, then we feel very excited about the future if we can do that. So that is us. So on the agenda today, you'll meet myself. I'll tell you a bit more about my story and how Definity came to be, what we are all about here at Definity, why become a B Corp, like why is it important, what are the benefits. We'll talk about a little bit about our services and pricing, and then we're going to finish off with Glen. I'm just going to ask him a few questions about his journey in becoming a B Corp. So first things first, it's a very busy slide, but you don't need to read all of that. Essentially, I have been helping businesses change to be for the good for the last 15 years. And not only that, but changing myself to be for the greater good in the process. So my background, I came from a corporate career. I worked in Hewlett Packard for 7 years, really specializing in change management, employee engagement, social responsibility, and internal communications. There's a really wide variety of roles, but essentially it was all around people. I became very passionate about focusing on people, and I used to often get very frustrated why in a large organization people were often put last, or their well-being or their you know, everything about them was sort of put last. I really felt frustrated because a lot of conversations in that world started from profit, and the meetings started from money rather than starting from a purpose or starting from the people that were essentially delivering our products and services. So I remember I used to often get frustrated. But on the other hand, I actually ended up starting a side hustle with an organization called Arbonne, which is also a B Corp. And I actually saw the complete opposite. I saw an organization that invested in people, especially in the self-development of people. I saw, you know, the development of products that were really well thought through. I saw a clear purpose of a company and a clear mission of to help people, you know, be more sustainable in terms of their health and well-being. So I just really had this sort of opposite effect, polar opposite effect and experience. And it got to a point where I left my corporate job and focused on Arbonne fully over a number of years. But then I started to really develop this curiosity around social entrepreneurship and what it meant to really be an entrepreneur that, you know, definitely solved the world's problems, but did it really through the lens of thinking about how can we solve this problem, but look after people, look after communities, and have a positive impact on the planet at the same time. And so about 5 years ago, I found out about B Corp. And as soon as I heard about this movement and this framework and this community, I instantly got excited, because I said, this is a way for people to change, for companies to change, or for people to be aligned with a really positive community that's making a positive impact. And I really started to learn more about that as well. And then it came to the pandemic 2 years ago, I think, or maybe 3 years ago now, June 2020, yeah, 2 years ago. And I found myself just walking in nature for like 3 months and asking myself, you know, as I found myself in this sort of crisis, this global crisis, I started to really reflect on a couple of questions, which was, what more can I do for me? Because I think it's always important to look after yourself first, because then you can give so much more. So I asked myself, what more can I do for me? What more can I do for my community? And what more can I do for our planet? And Definity was born from those questions, asking myself those questions for 3 months in nature. And the reason it came about is because I knew I wanted to educate young people on how to become really, really thoughtful entrepreneurs. But I really wanted to have a framework where people could change, you know, and it was a sort of solid framework that people could really understand and get behind. So that's where Definity was born, out of the global, not financial crisis. That was my Arbonne business was born out of that. But in terms of Definity, that's where it came from. And I would encourage you to think about those questions as well. They're the questions that I ask myself daily. And I find they're really important. And if you're listening to this call, I'm sure you're already geared towards that sort of thinking, because there are certain people and companies that are attracted to the B Corp certification and the B Corp community. And so, yeah, I encourage you to keep asking yourself those questions. And so essentially, Definity, we just want to share our values. Like I said, my values are so aligned with the B Corp mission and the B Corp framework, and it really is a way for us to be for the greater good of all. What is a B Corp? Many people ask that, and essentially it's a benefit corporation. So that little B stands for benefit corporation, and it's only been around for about the last 15 years. So it was founded in the US by a couple of co-founders who, again, were completely frustrated with the way for-profit businesses were conducting themselves, and really not focusing on having a balance across being purpose-led, people-led, planet-led, as well as making a profit. And they really created this this movement and this assessment to really create a more equitable and equal economy, you know. And something that they talk about now is really creating this regenerative economy where everyone benefits. It's not just some people that benefit, it's like everyone benefits. And that's what being a B Corp is all about, really having this balance and thinking about everyone. And so in terms of how long it's been in Australia and New Zealand, I mean, globally, there's now over 5,000 certified B Corps. In Australia and New Zealand, we're about 410. Sorry, somebody's just coming into the room. I'll just let them in. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. So I think, is it? Somebody's just joined there. Yeah, they're just coming in, so I'll let them come in. Yeah, in terms of B Corp globally, as I said, over 5,000 companies, 410 in Australia and New Zealand. And yeah, really focusing on what is important when it comes to business. And then these are just some examples of some organizations that are B Corp certified. These are some ones that you may recognize from Australia and New Zealand, or maybe globally. But essentially, these are some of these companies have been B Corp certified for a number of years since we launched in Australia, and some of them are fairly new. But maybe you recognize these brands, maybe you admire something about them, maybe you didn't even know they were a B Corp certified company, which is kind of cool to sort of discover that. But these are just a selection of the types of brands, the types of companies that are getting behind or being a part of this movement. And what I love is that being a B Corp, you can be any industry, any size, any country, but essentially we have this one united goal, is that we all want to redefine success in business and what that really means. And I think that's really powerful about this certification is there's no judgment against whether you're in one industry or the next, or you're a certain size, or you've got a certain mission or a purpose. It's actually open to all. And I think what's really powerful as well is that it's probably the first time that we've seen a company-wide certification that looks across every area of your business and really looks to see if you've got the highest social and environmental practices across every area. I think that's really powerful because a lot of other certifications don't. And also it just provides, like I said, this framework and this blueprint to really build a business. So whether you're a startup, just building your business, you can look at this framework. Even if you don't get certified straight away, you can't actually certify until you've been a limited company for 12 months. But you can be looking through these questions, looking through this framework and actually aligning your business to the framework from the beginning. Or if you're a more established business, you can also look at this to make some change and use the framework as a really powerful change model as well. So these are just a little selection, but I encourage you to go on. There's something called the B Corp directory, which we have in globally, and we also have one for Australia. And you can just go on the B Corp website, go to the B Corp directory and look at some of these brands, look at some of these companies, look at some of the assessments and the scores that they've got. This is what's so powerful about the B Corp certification, as well as it's fully transparent. So anyone that completes the assessment in the process, their score is available on the website. So you can actually see and benchmark yourself against some of these companies as well. So that sort of leads me into the benefits of becoming a B Corp. So number one, you get to differentiate from pretenders. And I think we can all say that we all know there's certain companies out there that say they're doing good, but may not necessarily be backing that up, or privately or behind the scenes, they're not actually doing good. So this certification is really rigorous. The assessment that you have to go through, there's about 200 questions covering 5 different areas of your business, and you need to provide evidence and documentation for everything that you actually say yes to. So I truly believe that this assessment and this certification does differentiate yourself from pretenders, because you have to go through this rigorous process. And the other thing is, number 2, definitely I've seen in a lot of companies reconnecting and articulating your core values. You know, I've definitely seen many companies go through this where just by answering the questions and just taking a moment to go through them, they actually do reconnect with their values and why they even started in the first place. Like, what was the mission? What is the mission of the company? What is that purpose? And why did you start? And it allows you to really reconnect and make changes if you need to, and those parts of the business to reconnect with why you started and what your values are. Number 3, you get a benchmark performance, like I said. So you can look at all these 5,000 companies in the world, and you can look to see what they're, what they're really good at. There's something that's just come out, and you maybe see it on social media at the moment. It's the best for the world sort of awards in B Corp. And what that means is companies that scored the highest in terms of maybe community or workers or their governance or their customers or their environment section, they are actually being highlighted and being recognized for being the best in the world for those particular elements. So I would encourage you to look at that as well. Like, look at those companies that are scoring those higher impact points, because they really are doing extraordinary things. And number 4, find your community. I definitely sometimes felt that I was a bit of a lone wolf, thinking the way I thought, and always thinking we have to put people first and we have to think about our impact on the planet. Like, I think today a lot more people are thinking that, but certainly before I found myself, especially in business, thinking, I wasn't, like, I was a bit of an oddball, it was just like nobody really thought of this. And I think what's powerful about the B Corp community, as soon as you get into it and you start to chat to other B Corps, it's just this underlying knowing and respect that you're on the same page and you're all gearing towards making this world a better place through business. And then number 5, you get to partner with peers around the world. I've seen so many partnerships with so many B Corps, from Patagonia, from Ben & Jerry's, from even in Australia, there's been a number of organizations that are B Corps that have come together to really vote for the climate vote for the planet. I've seen many companies do that, and many B Corps collaborate, not only for things they care about, but also in business as well. I see a lot of just business happen automatically when B Corps are in the room, because they sort of know you've gone through this process, and they know it's taken work, and they know that you're a sound company. So I definitely see that happening. And then lastly, attract and retain talent. I think we can all safely say there's definitely what they're calling a talent war right now, or the great resignation that's coming out of the US, where people's values are so strong right now, sort of post-COVID. All of our values have shifted and changed. And there's this mismatch between your values and the company you're working for day in, day out. And people are questioning that. People are saying, why am I working for this company I'm actually not aligned with, or I don't believe in, or I don't think they have a purpose, and I really don't think they're making a positive impact in the world. So a lot of people are leaving organizations, but they do want to be aligned with companies, whether that's on a freelance basis or an employee basis. So especially with the younger generation, they really value and look at B Corp look at B Corp companies as being really powerful, and companies that they aspire to work for. And I think every generation, I mean, younger generation definitely get this, but I think every generation is going through that shift, whether you're a baby boomer, whether you're Gen X, Gen Y, like there's no getting away from the fact that things have got to change. And, you know, I think people are tired for working for people that don't get that. And so again, it just makes another real benefit of you getting this certification, that the talent actually would choose you over another company because of this certification. So that's just a couple of the benefits. And I would just add another one on there add another thing that's not on there. And it's definitely something I've been hearing and seeing quite a lot, which is this whole sort of language around conscious consumerism, conscious capitalism, moving away from like sort of shareholder capitalism or corporation to stakeholder corporation or capitalism. And there's actually a really great book, it's called Conscious Capitalism by John Mackey, who started Whole Foods in the US. And it's fantastic because what we're seeing for the first time in a long time, especially in business, is this shift in mindset and this shift in the way of doing business. So what that meant is previously, before, we would create a business to make money and to deliver profit to shareholders. And of course, that is still important, but it's not the only element. It's not the number one. And this whole movement around stakeholder capitalism or stakeholder cooperation is actually about looking after all people in the process of producing your product or service, or attaining your purpose, or driving your mission. And I think that's the biggest shift that we're seeing in a lot of people and in a lot of companies. And a lot of people don't actually know what to do. So they can feel the shift, they can see it, but they're like, how do I actually move with the times? And B Corp is definitely the framework and the sort of blueprint to help you make that change if you're feeling like that's where you are. And conscious consumerism, 65 million conscious consumers and growing every day. And that basically means people are now spending powerfully with their wallet, with the dollars. They're basically saying, is this company for good? Do they look after their people? Not only are they like got the product certifications, I think we're even moving beyond that now, where they're looking for company certifications, but it's like they really are wanting to know, are you a good company, and do you stand for more than just profit? And I think that's where we're finding ourselves, and that's why I feel as if B Corp is a sort of this enablement and empowerment for you to change and move with these new changes. So the certification goes through a number of things. There's 3 sort of key areas. So it will measure, in the process of getting the certification, it will measure your social and environmental impact, as I said, over those 5 different areas. And they'll do that through what we call a B impact assessment. So it's called a business impact assessment. And you'll get all those 200 questions. That's free to use. You register on there, and you have to get over 80 impact points out of 200 questions. So that's the sort of first step. That's you sort of looking at your business and making sure we measure that social and environmental impact. Then there's the accountability piece, and this is a legal requirement where you have to commit to being a benefit corporation. So in the US, they actually have that as a legal entity. Here in Australia, we don't have that. So what we have in place of that is you can make an amendment to your company constitution that says, 1, I will definitely publicly benefit all stakeholders, and that statement will be in your constitution, and you will consider all stakeholders in the process of making any decisions in your business. So that's your community, that's your people, that's the planet. So you're taking into consideration everyone, all stakeholders. And then lastly, as I said, transparency. Your B impact report will be available online, not all the details, but the scores for each of those sections. And again, that's just that other level of transparency between you and your consumers or your clients or your suppliers or whoever it is you work with. You get to have that publicly transparent. And this is just a process that you go through. A lot of people ask the question, like, what is the process? How do you even begin? So the first thing we work on is really just completing the assessment. And I know that Glen will share a bit more about this and like what it was like going through that process. But I can honestly say this is the biggest barrier that I see for people, because 80% of businesses don't complete the assessment. So therefore they don't know their impact to know if they can actually submit. So one of the things as a consultancy that we really focus on is just the first step is getting you through those questions, those 200 questions, to make sure you answer them properly, make sure you understand them properly, make sure you have evidence that backs them up, and then you can actually see your score. So if you're well over 80, then you're in a really good position to submit and go for it. If you're under 80, then that's where we get to work on any potential changes that you can improve your impact. So if we get to that stage where we complete the questions and you're under the 80 points, then we will give you an impact improvement plan to increase your impact. And normally we actually do this as we go through the assessment, because there's definitely things that you can do as we're going through the process to make really positive changes. And then once you've got over that 80, you've made your improvements, you've done everything, we can then submit your assessment to B Lab. So B Lab is the not-for-profit that look after the community, and that's where the analysts are hired to go through and verify all the assessments. So there's a couple of months waiting list at the moment just to get an analyst assigned and to get it verified. So this process can take a few months, and a lot of people ask me, like, how long could this take? And it really depends. It depends, first of all, on how quickly you can get through the assessment and get your documentation. But definitely from an analyst point of view, it's a few months in the making for them to go through all of your questions and then get to the end and verify everything with you. So I would say anything from 6 months to a year. And so why it's so good to just start, because it will take time to get through the process. If after the analyst verifies your assessment and you're still over 80 points, there's also a 90-minute review call as part of that process with the analyst and myself. They might ask you for a bit more information, but then after that, if everything's cleared and you're all good and you're still over 80 points, then you then go through to be a B Corp, which is phenomenal. If it gets to the stage where you maybe drop points, so the analyst, checks a few things and doesn't quite believe that that's true based on the documentation, you may drop some points and you may not finish on 80. If that's the case, what we do as an organization is we actually, again, based on that feedback from the analyst, we will give you more ways to improve your impact, and then you can go to resubmit in a few months' time. And yes, of course, we also want to offer additional support, because we do feel that, the B Corp certification is just the beginning. You actually do need to be certified every 3 years. And it's really important not just to sort of go, of course, celebrate it, but not get there and go, okay, well, that's us done. We've done our impact for the next 20 years, we're okay. It's actually about what is that continuous improvement and continuous positive impact you can make every single day. So we are absolutely all about that. And then just quickly, just to let you know, to give you an estimate on cost of what everything would be. So in terms of B Corp certification fees, you can see here, they have a sustainable pricing model where it's based on your annual sales. So you can look along here, you can look at your annual sales and you can say, okay, if I'm a $1 million business, it'll be $1,300 for your annual certification fees. What happens in your first year when you go for this is, as you hit your submit on your assessment, they'll ask for that $250 upfront, and then they'll just take that off, let's say your $1,300 once you get to the certification part, and then that's how they do it for the first year. And then every year you'll just get an email from B Lab that says it's time for renewal. just pay your annual fees. So that's the certification fees. And then in terms of us, in terms of our consultancy, how does it work? These are different ways that we help you on your journey. First of all, it's the free discovery call or this webinar. So we always like to allow people to fully understand and really get educated on what this is all about. There's also a Become a B Corp workshop that we offer. We're doing that in partnership with B Lab at the moment. We actually have one in Byron Bay next week. There's going to be a series of other ones in Melbourne and a few other places. So obviously just keep in the loop if you feel that that workshop would be a good place to start. And then if you want to get consultancy, so that's one-on-one time with me or someone else as a B consultant. So I've been trained by B Lab to take you through the entire process. So that basically means you pay for the package, and from the moment you start to the very, very end, we take you through that entire process. And then you can see it's based on the size of your business in terms of employees. That's how we, again, make it more sustainable for all organizations of all sizes to get that consulting. And of course, we do 10% of our profits to our social entrepreneur fund to make sure we're continuously educating our young people about all of this as well. And these are just some of our clients. You'll see on here a wide variety. You might recognize some of these brands or you might not. Some of them are small businesses, medium businesses. We've got everything from hairdressing salons to industrial designers at Catapult. You know, we've got cyber. Daltrey just became certified. They're a cyber security company. We've got lawyers. We've got cacao making, a chocolate company with Living Cocoa. So again, complete variety on where everyone comes from, but really amazing companies that we've had the honor of partnering with. So I have the pleasure of welcoming one of our clients now. Thank you, Glen, for listening to all of that and staying patient with us. I would just love, I might just stop sharing my screen so we can see you. Yeah, I would just love to ask you a few questions because obviously you have recently gone through the process. And so I would just love to start with, if you could just share more about you. Some people will know you, some people won't, but more about you and Fox and Hare, your company. Tell us about that.
Sure. I felt like I was reliving the journey then going through through the deck. It has been a journey. Glen Hare, co-founder of Fox and Hare, launched about 4.5 years ago now. So in terms of our business, we launched to work with a very different demographic to who typically seeks financial advice. So in the advice industry, you know, the average age of a financial advisor is 55. Most people don't seek financial advice until they're statistically about 5 years from retirement. So we launched the business to work with a much younger and diverse demographic. So our youngest member is 21. Our older members are probably in their kind of mid-40s, but we do a lot of work to ensure that they're aligning their financial world with their goals. So yeah, it's incredibly rewarding work. Everyone has very different relationships with money and risk and all those types of things. But 4.5 years in, and it was just Jess, the co-founder of Fox and Hare, and myself, and there's now 13 of us in the business. So yeah, going well. Oh,
I've just gone out. Hold on, let me put back. I'm back. I'm back. Thank you so much, Glen. And I was just going to ask also, like, so we met, I think it was probably 18 months ago, and you said, like, we want to become a B Corp. And it was very much a proactive conversation on your behalf, where you reached out to me and you were like, yeah, this is something that we want to do. Can you just explain, like, why? Because obviously you're a startup, and, you know, anyone knows as a startup business, especially with the mission that you have in an industry that is, you're doing something completely different in an industry that goes a completely different direction. Like why was that important to you? Like, why was the B Corp certification important to you? Why were you attracted to it? And why did you decide to do it then when you had obviously a lot on your plate?
Yeah, good question. So there's probably a few layers to that. The first being, given my profession, financial advisor, accountant by trade, fairly analytical. So I really enjoyed the fact that the certification really quantified everything. So there was clear metrics, there was a clear framework, you know, picking up on something you were talking to earlier, Michelle, around the fact that you can't hide when going through the B Corp assessment. B
No.
Corp assessment. And I think that I know that the reason for that is because it is so extensive, and also it just touches all different layers: the community, the people, the planet, but also acknowledges that these businesses are for profit as well. So the finance industry often gets tarnished with a negative brush for various reasons. And we wanted to be a business that was a force for good, for people, the planet, and also to be profitable.
Yeah, I love that. And I was going to ask as well, so we earlier covered off like the process, like the assessment, and you had like various people in your team. Obviously you were heavily involved in completing the assessment, but you had other people in your team as well.
Yeah.
There was definitely moments where we were like ready to give in the towel, like walk away from this assessment. And as I said, 80% of people give up halfway through.
Yeah.
Complete it. Like, what motivated you to keep on going? Like, what were those elements? Like, why did you keep on going to get through that assessment?
So in the interest of complete transparency, it did probably take us about 18 months. We could have done it faster, but again, being such a, we started having only launched kind of three years in. The way that we approached it is we had one individual within the firm that really ran it. That was their initiative, that was their project on top of their kind of day job. So and obviously, with the support of yourself, Michelle, and me, we kind of huddled around them and kind of made sure that we were making consistent progress. And also it probably took a little bit longer in that what I loved about going through the assessment was it really made you look at every single aspect of your business. And I found that super insightful in that we were having conversations we didn't even know we were meant to have or that existed. And I really, really enjoyed that, in that it always made sure that we were considering things that potentially we just hadn't previously. So I kind of see that assessment as now almost going to become like the backbone of our business plan, to be frank. So that's going to really form part of how we make decisions on everything moving forward.
So could you just give me an example? Is there one thing that came to mind when you said that there was just stuff that you were having conversations about that you were like, whoa, like I never even thought of that, but because of it came up in the assessment and you had to decide if you could answer yes or no. Do you have anything specific that you remember going, wow, like that really challenged or questioned me?
There was nothing where I was like, oh, that's that I'm not comfortable with that. I'm not comfortable talking about that or considering that. But like, we now have a breastfeeding policy. And that was just something that I didn't even know that we would need to have. I would just be like, yeah, cool, I'm comfortable with that. That's not an issue. But I think having that, just even being able to have that conversation and consult with our employees was really great. And we also did make sure that we had everyone, it was a bit more of a consultative experience. So if there were things that came up in the assessment that we hadn't, I suppose, considered before, or we weren't really sure on what the best approach was, have a conversation with the team and we'll get their input and can then kind of drive forward off the back of that.
Yeah, and I'd just like to ask a question about this because your team, because obviously you were a smaller team when it started and then you've expanded over like in those 18 months as well. And your team were very emotionally connected to this. And I would love to know, like, how did you engage? So obviously you decided as one of the co-founders, and Jess as well, that you wanted to go down this path, and then you had someone own it from like filling it out perspective. But then I think you guys did such a good job of like educating your team on what it meant. To the point where when they found out you were certified, they were like crying, there was tears,
Totally.
It was that emotional. And I would love to connect back to that, because obviously one of the benefits we spoke about was talent. How this really can be a deciding factor for many people to decide who they work with. So like, how did you go about that, and why do you think there was so much emotion involved in this certification from your team?
Because we brought our team on the journey, they saw the ongoing engagement and the process and the conversations we were having, and also the brands that we're now sitting aside. You know, brands like Patagonia, brands like Kathmandu, like really inspirational, progressive brands. It was really for us that, you know, a small business of 13, that was incredibly humbling, but also empowering. And when you were talking through the benefits of B Corp, I mean, we've been a B Corp for about a month. But, the thing that probably stands out to me the most when reflecting on that slide is the community piece. Yeah. And I genuinely don't even feel like we've even started the journey of really embracing the community. And what I mean by that, and there's again probably different layers to that. So touching on the talent piece, we now, when we're recruiting, we do get people that say, "Oh wow, I saw you were B Corp," and they understand what that is, and they're more, I guess, what's the word, inclined to reach out. And what that means from, I guess, an employer's perspective, we're then also getting people that reach out that share similar values and ethos. Not only that, only in the last couple of weeks, we've, now that we've kind of updated our website, our email signatures, things like that, we're now getting, Fox and Hare members, so clients attracted to us because, again, they know that our values are aligned. And not only, I guess, that obviously has a profitability perspective, a marketing perspective, but even beyond that, we're getting people reach out that, again, share our values, who we just love working with because our values are aligned. So yeah, it's interesting, that community piece. And I literally just got tagged in a post today from another financial advisor. Her sister lives in Noosa and works at Ben & Jerry's. So, and I didn't know that they were a B Corp. And then I just was seeing on your slide deck there, and I'm like, I mean, I love their mint chunky chip ice cream. I would love for Fox and Hare to do something with Ben & Jerry's. I don't know what, we're a financial advice firm, but I feel really confident in reaching out and saying, hey, just have a chat. Like, would love to see how you kind of approach things. And I've also had conversations with others in the finance space. So reached out to kind of Bank Australia, Australian Ethical, because my mind went straight to recertification.
Yes, I know.
I'm a bit crazy, I know, but I was like, all right, we've done it. We've got certification. I want to make sure that the next 3 years is continually making small steps towards that. So it's not like this mad dash at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And we've just got we've got a couple of minutes left, but I wanted to ask about, actually, I was just going to make a point on that Ben & Jerry's, because I think this is awesome to know. When I was in Rome just a few months ago, they had the CEO from Greyston, which is, they make the chocolate fudge brownie for Ben & Jerry's ice cream, right? They're a B Corp as well. So this is just, again, highlighting the community, the collaboration. And so they actually, their policy around hiring is they basically do blind reviews. They actually exist to employ people they actually say, we don't make chocolate fudge brownie, we exist to employ people to make chocolate fudge brownie. And so their entire policy around hiring is that you don't need any qualifications, you don't send in a resume, you don't send in anything, and they have a waiting list as long as their arm to work for them. That's how much they value people. They don't have any judgment, any discrimination. So they call it some open hiring, and they've developed such a world-class open hiring policy that other companies are now copying them. Other companies are now doing the same.
That's cool.
You'll never eat that chocolate fudge brownie the same again, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Much more meaning behind it. Okay, so yeah, I was just going to ask, in terms of I was going to ask about, have you seen more clients come to you, which I think you've answered. Have you seen, like, obviously you're in the financial services industry, and I know that this is something that you're really passionate about, is changing the industry and its perception. Have you had other, because you're only one of a handful, right? You're only one of a handful of financial services companies that have done this. Have you had other financial services companies come to you and be curious about this, or other advisors? Like, have you seen like the industry sort of go, oh, this is interesting?
Yeah, definitely. So off the back of that, there was a number of, I guess, financial advisor trade publications, journalists reached out. They were just like, oh, what's this about? This is a little different to what we usually write about. The person that tagged me in a post today on LinkedIn is a financial advisor. Her sister works at Ben & Jerry's. I've got a meeting with Bank Australia, just to have a conversation. And my conversation with them was, how are they approaching the recertification? How do they monitor, I guess, all the measurements of success that they've kind of committed to? How do they practically manage it? So that was probably more of a practical conversation. But there's definitely this feeling of, oh, you're a B Corp. I understand what you value. I understand your purpose. I understand what you've been through, but let's see if there's an opportunity for us to kind of help each other. So it's only been a couple of weeks, and there's certainly already been a number of connections, both within the industry and externally, which again, it's, yes, I've seen, coming back to the comment around, more people reach out to become Fox and Hare members. Yes, I have seen that to a certain extent, but also just who is reaching out, like people that just align to what we're trying to do, which just makes work much more fun if you're working with people that have similar values. Yeah,
absolutely. Totally agree. So just to wrap up now, in terms of, obviously I've loved working with you and your entire team, but I'd just love to ask, because obviously as a B consultant, I'm always curious to know, like was it of value to have someone like me take you through the process? Of course, you're going to have to say yes here. But like, obviously there, and I do know you've told me there has been value, but like, what specifically does having like a B consultant with you throughout this help?
Yeah. So for us, when we made the decision 18 months ago, we had so much on our plate with just the business. So Jess and I, we made a call. We needed to prioritize this. Otherwise, it would just keep going to the bottom of the list. And we committed to this. We wanted to do this. We wanted to do it since we launched in 2017. So we just made it a priority. We ensured that there was, I guess, an individual within the business that would drive it. And Michelle, in all seriousness, the support that you gave made what felt initially quite an overwhelming task to be something that we could just work through together. I think that was that was probably the turning point for me, and where I saw the most value in that. Initially, I was just like, this is huge. I don't even know where to start. For you being able to kind of break that down, give us kind of clear time frames, set a schedule in terms of what we're going to prioritize, also what we're going to deprioritize, and then come back to at a later stage. To also interpret some of what I suppose B-Lab, B Corp were looking for, to share your experiences with going through similar exercise or experience with other clients, what worked, what didn't. We found those learnings really, really valuable. Otherwise, I think we would have just been kind of winging it. And look, maybe we could have got there, maybe we couldn't, but I'm certain that it would have taken us a lot longer, and I'm also not certain that we would have been certified through that first time round.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. Well, that was incredible. I just want to check, I think Matt's just joined. Matt, have you got any questions just before we wrap up? Matt is a local financial services advisor up here in Byron.
Cool.
Yeah, hi, how are you? Sorry, I joined a bit late. I got caught up on some Chamber of Commerce stuff, actually. So that just dragged on way longer than it needed to. That's the joys of engaging with community functions, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. Have you got any questions, Matt, before we wrap up?
Yeah, so probably the one question I caught in the conversation there, sort of 18 months from go to woe. How long do you think, like, from when you consciously went, right, we are going to do this and we're going to crack on and we're going to use the services, and how long do you think it took you to turn that piece around?
So it definitely was an 8 to 18-month journey, but the call out being, given that our business was only 3 years old and it was a startup, there was just constant competing priorities. Yeah. Had we just committed one person to deliver on that over a 6-month period, I'm pretty confident that we could have kind of got there over that period. However, for us, and this was certainly on kind of our shoulders, we had to kind of almost dip in, dip out, dip in, dip out. And I did find, again, a lot of value in Michelle just checking in and going, okay, cool, where are we at? What's next? What's the kind of the next step? When do you have capacity? So it was very much on I suppose, us. For a more established business, I don't think it would need to take anywhere near as long. I think we just had so many competing priorities, which is why.
And you were creating many of your systems organically from scratch. So
correct. Yeah.
It didn't think about like buying those down and then, beating them into your own shape, or we just wanted to start from scratch?
In terms of the business itself, or
as in processes and protocols and policies and so on and so forth.
Yeah. So we definitely did lean on Michelle for a lot of that, in terms of kind of where there was opportunity to use templates or resources that she'd use with other clients. But also, I guess we didn't want to rush anything either. So we wanted to make sure that we were putting in policies and creating, an employee handbook that we were really proud of. And then obviously getting the team involved, asking them for feedback and things like that. Naturally, that just kind of slowed things up. If we were just cool, we're kind of ticking these boxes, again, that could have expedited things, but we didn't want to just tick a box. We wanted to make sure that whatever we were implementing, we were consciously thinking about the impact that would have.
Okay.
And I would also add to that, within Glen's team, there was actually a change of person that was owning the assessment. So there was like one person left, and then this other person came in and had to sort of catch up on all that learning. And it was like halfway through. So I would definitely say that was something in the middle as well. But we do have, as Definity, we identified fairly early on, we've certified 7 companies now, and we identified quite early on that there's just key documents that you're going to need. So like policy templates, like Rankin Lawyers, who's one of our clients and partners, they actually provided us with policies that are all like pretty standard, like you can make them your own, but those ones that you're going to need are already here you go, make them your own, and as Glen said, like make them fox and hare, or do a good job and something you're proud of. So we've definitely got templates like that you can say, hey, for this question, this is what they're really looking for. So fill this out and create this, that would be that part done, so we're definitely here to help that ease of documentation as well.
Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks, Glen. Thanks, Michelle.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your time. That was awesome. Thank you much, Glen. Thank you for everyone that's listening to the recording. Thanks for joining, Matt. If you've got any questions, as always, just drop me an email, and more than happy to help. But thanks again, and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Farewell.